Dead Man's Island by Carolyn Hart. This book is read by Kate Redding. Prologue. I don't consider myself an angel, avenging or otherwise, but I can't always accept fate as the answer. Timing makes all the difference. There exists a rather charming school of thought that the motorist who looms out of the fog at precisely the right moment, or the fatherly old man who takes a lost child's hand and leads her to safety, are heaven-sent messengers, unknown to themselves, of course. It was the episode in the hotel lobby that made me, Henrietta O'Dwyer Collins, ponder the imponderable and my role in it. Had I come downstairs 1 minute later, Willa Benson would have been sitting pretty. But I was strolling past the reception area a few minutes after 8 with nothing more in mind than a leisurely jog. Midway down the polished pink and white marbled hallway, my right shoelace flopped loose. I propped my Reebok on the edge of the heavy blue porcelain planter. As I tied the lace, I glanced at the mirror that reflected me in navy sweats, and behind me, the hallway and the ornate mahogany front desk. That's why I saw the sleek, satisfied, sly look on Willa Benson's plump face as she turned away from the front desk and looked down at the envelope in her pudgy hands. What made it doubly interesting was the contrast between that unguarded expression, one of malice laced with amusement and contemptuous pleasure, and her usual demeanor of chirpy congeniality as she dealt with the needs of Mamie Duval, the frail elderly woman whom she served as a companion. So I yanked on the shoelace, reworked it, and continued to watch the mirror and the pink-cheeked, motherly-looking woman with the envelope in her hand. What made it triply interesting was that she didn't open the envelope. Instead, she moved out of sight of the clerk, ripped the envelope, the unopened envelope, in half, then stuffed the pieces in her purse, still looking pleased and satisfied in a thoroughly nasty way. I suppose most people might have seen all of the above and shrugged, thinking it none of their business, no matter how intriguing. Not I. As soon as the elevator door closed behind Willa, I walked to the lobby desk. There are clerks and clerks. This young lady had a big smile, and she always tried to please. "Any messages for me, Anita?" "No, Mrs. Collins. I just sorted the mail." I half turned, then paused. "Oh, Mrs. Duval's expecting an important letter. I told her I'd ask." "It's on its way to her right now. The lady who's with her, Mrs. Benson, just picked it up." So I was right. This was mail for Mamie Duval, not for her canary-faced companion. I breathed an audible sigh of relief. "Oh, I do hope it was the letter from Sheila, the one she's hoping for." "Well," Anita said brightly, "it was postmarked from Phoenix, and it looked like a woman's handwriting." "That's the one," I beamed. "I believe I'll go right up and talk to her." As I waited for the elevator, I saw my own reflection, dark hair silvered at the temples, dark eyes that have seen much and remembered much, a Roman coin profile, a lean and angular body with an appearance of forward motion even when at rest, and the angry light in my eyes. I can't abide meanness. And I didn't need a minute's consideration to decide that Willa Benson was up to something very mean indeed. I didn't go to Mrs. Duval's room, of course, but to my own, and my telephone. Sometimes you pick up as much by what people don't say as what they do, and I figured I had a line on Mamie Duval. I'd played bridge several evenings with a trio of elderly women, one of whom was Mrs. Duval. Mamie Duval was a soft-voiced widow with a pale, aristocratic face, mournful blue eyes, and a sad droop to her mouth. She had the least to say, but she listened hungrily to the other players' tales of family and friends. Bonhomie was encouraged at Monaghan House, an amiable, quietly friendly compound in the Shenandoahs, offering golf and horseback riding, tennis and croquet, gently spectacular views of wooded ridges and valleys, sedate activities, bird walks, bridge, guest lectures, for guests, even spa waters for wan health seekers. Not actually my usual kind of vacation spot, but an old friend owned it, and I'd come for a week's visit. I was leaving tomorrow. So, I understood, was Mrs. Duval. I had a laptop and modem with me. It was child's play to tap into the hotel system. I pulled up the Duval registration. Mrs. Marguerite Duval, 2903 Egret Marsh Road, Pensacola, Florida, 32505. 10 minutes later, courtesy of the Pensacola Library System, I had the telephone numbers of her neighbors on either side and across the street. I did a little more exploratory work. Newspaper morgues are so helpful, and came up with the date of death for Marguerite's husband, and more important, the obituary list of survivors, his daughter, Pamela Duval Wilson of Phoenix, Arizona, and one grandson, Thomas Charles Wilson, also of Phoenix. Dolly Garrison, who lived across the street from Mrs. Duval, never suspected I wasn't a long-lost cousin of Mrs. Duval's trying to get in touch. "Why, it's the funniest thing. First Mamie's daughter called, a couple of days ago, and now you. Pam says her mother's number is unlisted. Why on earth? Nobody I know has an unlisted number." I worked fast. Needless to say, I missed my jog, but by the end of the day I knew all about Marguerite Duval, her daughter Pam, and her grandson Tommy. I knew about Mamie Duval's broken hip, and the woman, Willa Benson, who'd answered her ad for live-in help. But the real lowdown came when I talked to Pam. I've written and written. The last-minute airline ticket and the change to my own reservations and the purchase of 2 more last-minute tickets was pricey, but I happen, thanks to some recently published novels, to be rather well-heeled at the moment. Is that perhaps a qualification for avenging angels? I made a great show of delight and surprise when I reached row 10 on the flight to Pensacola and found I had the window seat next to Mrs. Duval and Willa. I insisted that Mrs. Duval take the window seat. I was happy to sit in the center. I took particular pleasure in noting Willa's not quite concealed relief at being relieved of duty. I haven't asked tough questions for more than half a century without learning how to get people to talk. Mamie Duval was a heartbreak waiting to be unloaded. "Can't find any trace of my daughter. Willa's helped me. She's called everyone who knew Pam, but she and Tommy left her apartment without leaving an address, and I haven't heard from her. Not a phone call, not a letter, for almost a year now. Willa even talked to the police in Phoenix. That's where Pam lived. But they told her all they could do was file a missing persons report." Mamie's face crumpled. "Something awful's happened to Pam and Tommy. No word, nothing." I dredged it all out, how Willa had handled everything, had made all the inquiries. Mamie pressed a sodden handkerchief to her reddened eyes. "I don't know what I would do without Willa. She's the only person I have in the whole world now." I reached out, gently held a frail arm in my hand. "No, you aren't alone. In fact, I have wonderful news for you. Pam is all right. She's been trying to get in touch with you for more than a year. She loves you very much, and she and Tommy will be at the airport when we land." My voice is clear. It carries. Willa's head jerked toward me. Shock loosened the muscles in her face. There was no smugness there now. 1. I flew to St. Louis the next day, then drove to Derry Hills, my present fairly permanent residence. I kept thinking of mother and daughter reunited, the saccharine interloper vanquished. In contrast, how fortunate I was in my life, even though I was now a widow. My relationship with my own daughter Emily is strong and loving, and I take great delight in Emily's family. For myself, I'd spent more than 50 years as a reporter, enjoying every minute. Those days are behind me now, but I face new challenges every day. I welcome them. My life is full and happy. I was glad to be back, suddenly eager to get to work on my new book. I hurried inside the house. I was just unzipping my suitcase when the phone rang. I...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?